If you like to make your NFL games a little bit more interesting, you've come to the right place. It's the Even Money Podcast with Ross Tucker and Steve Fezzik.
Yeah, Vegas, baby, Vegas. It is the Even Money Betting Podcast. We are presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years ago, long time ago. Nobody cares. What you do care about is that you have come to the #1 NFL betting podcast in the galaxy. We got a really cool combo here. We've got a 2-time winner of the Super Contest at the Westgate. He wins all kinds of competitions. He's been a professional bettor. That's how he's made his living, supported his lovely wife and amazing son for well over 20 years at this point. The great Steve Fezzik at Fezzik Sports on social media and only at Fezzik Sports. And you can only find them at pregame.com. So don't ever follow at Real Steve Fezzik. Don't ever go to stevefezzik.com. That's not him, okay? I'm Ross Tucker. I mentioned that. My social media is at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. And, of course, we love everybody checking us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. We're kind of in a groove here with our summer format. What does that mean? That means Steve will have some games of the week bets. Today we'll talk about week 4 and week 5 in the NFL. So Steve will have some games of the week bets. What does that mean? Steve has gone through and looked at the schedule that week and already has some games that the lines are up at DraftKings that he is ready to fire on because he feels like there's value now and he's all over it. Then we get Steve's takes and thoughts on other things we can bet on right now, whether that's obviously NBA, NHL just ended, so it's primarily baseball at this point. But I still want to review how the NBA, NHL finished up for Steve. And then we get to your questions. So some of you have figured this out. You rate and review the show on Apple Podcast and then send that to me, Ross at rosstucker.com, or take advantage of like the code Ross on the Game Time app or whatever, or use the code Ross at DraftKings. You go right to the top of the list, and we get to your question pretty darn quickly here on the Even Money Podcast. All right, Steve, before we get to the NFL bets, let's start with what we know and what you already did in the NBA Finals and NHL. You said Game 7 under NHL. That came through, correct?
Yes, it did. It was actually Game 6 went under after 5 straight overs to start the series, Ross.
That's right. It was Game 6. That's right.
And frankly, that Game 6, dead stone cold, not under, still almost went over once Florida had a big lead. And it just showed the NHL fundamental change, pulling goaltender early, teams not giving up no matter how many goals they were down. So betting unders was fraught with difficulty. Bottom line is that was the only game in this series to go under was the Game 6.
That is interesting. That's something to know moving forward. Is that an analytics thing?
Yeah, I think whenever you see, I don't know what they call analytics, but whenever you see a fundamental shift or change in what has been done in the past, you have to step up and notice it. And that certainly was the case NHL playoffs this year.
So do you think that the lines have been adjusted, Steve, or do you think is it different in the regular season?
It is. During the regular season, teams were more aggressive, pulling their goalies. They wouldn't just wait till the final 2 minutes. But in the playoffs, it just became even more magnified, Ross, to the point that it was so dangerous, especially during live wagering. If a team was down 2 with like 4 minutes to play, it wasn't unusual to get 2 or even 3 goals in those final 4 minutes.
Well, so the difference is, right, hockey, you still get a point or whatever if you go to overtime and lose. Like, right, they got the whole point system where it's not like a winner takes all. There's value in going to overtime and not just going for broke. There's even value in losing in overtime. So people are not going to just be pulling them like they would. But in the playoffs, that goes out the window.
It does. I did want to address one of the stupidest ways of recording points and wins is the NHL. And they will change this. Bold prediction, within 10 years, eventually they're going to change it because think about it. We could make a mockery of the game. It's 2-2. There's 5 minutes remaining. Ross, you should dump the puck. I should dump the puck back and forth. Neither of us should try to score. We both ensure we get a point for going to overtime, and then we can play in the regular season, play the overtime period. It makes no sense at all. Both teams should not be rewarded for not being able to score and for having that strategy. You just can't, it's got to be an even-sum game. Every game has to be worth the same number of points. You can't award an extra point because teams somehow can, wink, wink, nod, nod, find a way to tie and head to overtime.
Do you think that happened, Steve, or you're suggesting that it could happen?
Oh, there's no question it's not predetermined, but it's much more likely than you would expect in terms of the goal scoring that's going to occur when a game is tied with 5 minutes to go. The scoring incidence goes way down because both teams recognize this during the regular season.
So I should know this, but I don't know it. How does it work? You get how many points for a regulation win? How many points for an overtime win? How many points for a tie? How many points for an overtime loss? And how many? Well, I know you get nothing if you lose.
Yeah, so you get 2 points for a win, and you get 1 point for an overtime loss, and of course 0 points for a regular season loss. So if you beat me 5-3, you get 2 points. I get 0. But if you beat me 5-4 in overtime, you still get your 2 points, but I get a point. That's ridiculous. Why are you awarding, 50% more points for overtime games? It makes no sense.
Right. Plus, the other team still gets their 2, so they don't really care how many points the opponent gets. They just want their 2.
Exactly. So it's a completely flawed system. It's the opposite of the World Cup. Think about it now, in the World Cup, there were so many ties and there's so much conservative play. You get 1 point each for a tie, but whoever wins gets 3 points. So they reward more points for a game that isn't decided in overtime. It's crazy.
Which do you think is worse?
I think both are flawed. I think that every game should be worth the same number of points.
Okay, so you think in soccer, World Cup, it should be 2 points for a winner and 1 point each for overtime?
Yes, exactly.
But for a tie, but they're trying to incentivize people to try to win and score more goals, right?
That, yes, and also the format of the World Cup is unique in that so often there'll be a team that'll be in a situation where all they need to do is tie to go ahead and advance, and so they really want to discourage ties and getting points for ties.
Got it. What about, Steve, on the NBA side of it? Because you were talking last week, I'm trying to remember, so we talked last Tuesday, so that was before Game 6 NHL, and then before Game 6 and 7 NBA. We were not expecting a Game 7, really. Oh, no, yeah, you were. You were all over Indy.
Yeah, so Halliburton, the news about his calf strain came out, and that line actually, I liked Indy +5, and it went up to, +6, and all that money was wrong, Game 6, but the money that was right, we did see Game 6 go under, and then Game 7 go way under. What an adjustment. So Game 1, the total was 230, Ross. Game 7, the total was 215. So it just shows when you go deeper and deeper into a series, how much of an adjustment these odds makers and these bettors make, anticipating what were indeed lower scoring games.
Wait, they made a 15-point difference between Game 6 and Game 7?
Between Game 1 and Game 7. Game 1 was 230. Game 6 was right around 223, and then Game 7 was 215.5.
But still, what would be the logic for having a line almost 8 points less from one game to the next?
Historically, game sevens, the refs swallow the whistles, and both the players on both teams that aren't the superstars, and even sometimes the superstars, play so tight. And that three-pointer, where you're not a great three-point shooter, but you're open, you take it game 2, and you pass the ball game 7.
So then, like, did DraftKings and the other books set the lines lower, Steve? Or did they just come down fast because so many people like you were betting the under?
What a great question. They actually opened the number way, way lower. So they've seen this pattern so many times that the bookmakers actually are on top of it, where they just set the game 7 total a good 6-7 points lower at open. So it started out very low and basically stayed there.
More great stuff right after this. Gosh, it was a great weekend at the beach, Jack. Just phenomenal. Thanks to the weather. Thanks to Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka and an official vodka partner of the NFL. And maybe more in particular, their recipes that I see when I grab the bottle of Smirnoff, which you can do at your local retailer, Smirnoff.com, to find recipes of delicious cocktails perfect for game day. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please do not share with anyone under legal drinking age. Wow. That is really interesting. All right. We got to get to these NFL games. We got to get to the email questions, which I love from the listeners, ross@rosstucker.com. You guys came through the last couple of weeks. Doesn't mean you can't jump the line, by the way, if you go ahead and do some of the things we talk about, whether you rate and review the show or you take advantage of any of our sponsors. Sponsors, by the way, are listed on rosstucker.com in case you want to see, hey, I'll use this code for that and be able to ask Steve a question for next week. All right, so now what, Steve? NBA's done. NHL's done. We still have at least a month before the Hall of Fame game, NFL preseason. So we're basically just at baseball this time of year.
Yeah, it looked extremely rocky for the Mudville 9 that day. NBA and NFL had finished. And will we really bet the WNBA? But
I got a question about that. You used to be big on WNBA.
You know what? They say that if you do what you love, you won't work a day of your life. And so I have been betting and successfully betting and winning at the WNBA for many years. The lines got tighter, and I'll say it, get angry with me. I don't like the game. I don't enjoy it. That's just me. Maybe you love the WNBA. That's great. So I said goodbye to the WNBA, and I haven't been watching it.
So you just moved on because the lines got tighter as more people were watching.
And that made me happy because even if I hate a sport, if I can beat it easily, I'm absolutely going to bet on it. But when it's difficult to beat a sport, it's a lot easier for me to do the work when I'm grinding away, making modest profits, when I enjoy the sport. If I don't like the sport, I just won't do it. Got it.
Okay. All right. So then since it's baseball time, it's funny because I think we got an email at some point. Somebody's saying, Ben, a WNBA question for you, but that might not be a good question for you anymore.
I probably still can answer it.
All right, but what about, before we get to the NFL, baseball? I know you've got this season-long, under bets on the bad teams. Do you bet game to game at all, Steve?
Yes, and one of my favorite ways to bet, and I've been having great success the last 4 years in baseball. And if there was one thing I would say that stood out, I love playing first 5 inning bets, Ross. And here's why. It's so complicated to track the bullpens for all the teams and to pay attention to when the bullpens are rested or they're depleted and the like. Let's just remove it. Let's take it out of the equation. They don't exist. And how do we do that? By betting first 3 innings and first 5 innings, primarily first 5 innings. And the idea is that if you just handicap the starters correctly, you never have to worry about the bullpen. Example, almost every time he pitches, Tarek Skubal, Detroit, Cy Young winner, having another Cy Young type of year. Today is Derek Skubal day, which means I bet Detroit first 5 innings, -0.5, and I have to lay -175 today. I don't care. Skubal will give up 1 run. He might give up 0. Every now and then he gives up 2. But as long as he only gives up 1 run in 5 innings, Tiger should score 2 or more, and we'll get there with our first 5-inning bet.
Why 5 innings instead of 3?
Because 5 is much more common. Not that many books deal 3 innings versus 5 innings. And also in a case like this, since I'm going to have to lay a half a run, 3 innings just isn't enough time. Oftentimes, your own team can get bageled and not score in the first 3 innings. So even if Skubal throws a 3-inning shutout, you might not win your bet. Usually by 5th inning, the cream rises to the top, and Detroit will have time to get the couple runs, which is necessary to win the bet.
3 innings is less variance too, right? Because you've got if you feel like you have an edge, and because of the starting pitcher, you want more innings to exploit that edge.
Yeah, I wanted more time to get into the long run. It would be like asking a poker player, do you want to play with a bunch of bad players for 1 hour, 3 hours, or 5 hours? He'd say, oh, the longer the better, and it'll be more likely I'll come out on top.
But Steve, like the people setting the lines, they know how good Skubal is. So like, I guess what I don't understand about that is like, isn't that built into these lines?
Yes, it is. Great question. And here's where they get it wrong. They build it into the game line, all right? So they say, okay, today Detroit, if Skubal is pitching and Detroit is a -300 favorite for the game. But then they take that number for the game and then they basically go to their chart and churn it into a 5-inning line. But what they don't realize is the reason Detroit is such a monster favorite for the game is because of early in the game when Skubal's pitching the first 7 innings. So that's where the mistake is made, in my opinion.
Got it. All right. Let's get to your NFL bets before we get to some of these emails, which I love. NFL, so the last couple of weeks, we've already done the week 1s. Last week, I think we did week 2 and week 3. This week, do you have anything on week 4, Steve? Did anything jump out to you? Because you can't force it. You got to feel it.
Exactly. So I'm just going to give you a lean. This is not an actual play because I was surprised. I went through the whole schedule and nothing stood out. The only game, if I got into my head, if I had to bet it, Minnesota is at Pittsburgh. I would go under the 42.5. And I just think that the Steelers, I think the Aaron Rodgers offense is going to fail for the Steelers this year. I think it's going to be, it might even be a disaster. And I don't know, I think the Vikings are going to have a good defense, and I just don't know what the quarterback change that offense is going to be as good as it was last year. I'm going to go under the 42.5.
Yeah, that seems pretty high. With the Steelers defense, Vikings have a good defense. They added some people. You still got a young quarterback in McCarthy, but he'll have 3 games under his belt, so there'll be enough tape to kind of know strengths and weaknesses a little bit on him. Rodgers is still kind of getting familiar with the offense. I like that bet quite a bit, Steve. I'd be surprised if that would be a surprise me if that went over.
All right, I'll upgrade it. It's a play. We like it.
Love it. Because think about it, right? Like Rodgers, that'll be his 4th game with these guys. And McCarthy, it's only his 4th game, but also then the Steelers will have 3 games of tape to really be working off of for him. So they'll be able to, you would think, cook up something different or unique for him. All right. What about, Steve, week 5? You have anything week 5 that jumped out to you?
I have 2 games that I like. The first one is in Indianapolis. The Raiders travel to Indy, and Indy is -120. You know what? I think Indy's slightly better than the Raiders, and they're home. -120 is cheap. I'll take the Colts.
That makes sense. Anything else?
Yes. Dallas -120 at the Jets. I know the Cowboys are only supposed to win 7.5 or 8 games. But Dallas is not just better than the Jets. They're significantly better than the Jets. And the spot is bad for the Jets. The Jets are on the road the 2 weeks before, both games in the state of Florida. So they're playing, I believe, in Miami and at Tampa Bay. And so they're playing in the heat and humidity of Florida weeks 3 and 4, and then they go home. So advantage Dallas there. Dallas should be more than a minus 120 favorite.
Got it. Love it. So that's 3 NFL bets here on June 24th that people can get down if they would like. To recap that, well, first of all, Steve likes the Detroit Tigers today. If you listen to this or watch it soon enough, which, by the way, would be a good reason to make sure you have your notifications turned on after you subscribe, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL, or to the podcast, to get those notifications turned on so that you can get in a baseball bet on a Tuesday in the summer before it's too late. But then we also have 3. First of all, we fixed hockey, which is impressive. And then we got 3 NFL bets. For those of you that like the recaps, Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers under week 4 against the Vikings. And then he likes Cowboys on the money line in week 5 against the Jets. Colts on the money line in week 5 against the Raiders. Don't go anywhere. Got to pay some bills real quick. Going to be a big beer week for me with all the Jason Kelsey events. Get cool stuff for drinking beer like I do. Buy beer, get gear from Labatt. Just head to the website, snap a photo of your receipt, upload it instantly to rack up points for exclusive merch. You can get points for every purchase at any store, bar, or stadium, any size, any product, anywhere you're buying Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Go to rewards.labattusa.com to sign up. What about the email questions? Ross@rosstucker.com. First one is from Reginaldo Hernandez. Hi, big fan of the Even Money podcast. I'm from Juarez, Mexico. I would like to ask Steve a question. What does he think about all the Plus EV memberships out there like OddsJam or BetSwap? Do they count as touts? I'm not familiar with these, Steve, so you'd have to tell me if you're familiar with Plus EV memberships.
I believe I know what they're doing, and my apologies, Reginaldo, if I make a mistake here, but I believe that what they do is they have an odd screen up and they spot arbitrage opportunities. So an example would be we're betting Detroit first 5 innings today, -0.5, -175. Well, maybe another book has +0.5, +180. So you could bet both of those bets. That's a 5-cent straddle. Arbitrage, short profit, and you could bet on both sides. So it alerts you. I believe both these products, and I haven't used either one, so caveat, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe they alert you to the fact when you can play both sides of a game and lock in a profit.
Got it. Okay, so this is not like an opinion. This is, hey, this is the numbers. This is a Plus EV opportunity.
Exactly right. And I'm not sure if they alert you to profitable middles as well, but typically when a game is moving, it's on the move. An example, I just bet this in college football 2 months away, but I went ahead and played Oregon State, and they're hosting Cal, and I played Oregon State. You could play them at Pick'em, and now you could play back Cal and get like plus $1.20. So that would be an example of an arbitrage situation that came up earlier, very early this morning.
All right, so here's the deal, Steve. You love the numbers. You love any edge. Why would you not be on all these Plus EV opportunities? Like, why would you not either do it yourself or subscribe to these services that alert you so that you can lock in these, the paper profit, if you will?
Yeah, it's a great question. I probably should be, but at some point, if you wind up signing up for all these different services, they're all going to alert you at once. And if you're already looking at the screen, like in the NFL, I'll spot it myself. Now, I certainly will miss it on prop bets, but I'm always looking at the screen in the first half line. So typically, frankly, I'll see it anyways. And usually I'll have an opinion in the NFL, so instead of playing both sides of the game, I'll play the one that I like better. But I probably should be, and I certainly should be checking it out. Just a limited bandwidth, not enough hours in the day. I'm writing a book, by the way, Ross, so it's like it takes up a lot of time to do all these different projects.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Is it always a different book, Steve, or are there ever these opportunities at the same book, or do they usually have it balanced?
99% it's at two different books. Every now and then there'll be a book that like talks about a bet that's essentially the same bet, but the language is a little bit different and such. I have seen scalps at the same book, but it's extremely rare.
Got it. Well, it's not rare to love every episode of the Even Money podcast. Love those of you that rate and review and send it to me so you can get your question asked right away. Check him out on social media at Fezzik Sports. I am at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. Certainly next week we'll see if Steve has any bets for week 6 and or potentially week 7. We'll talk more baseball, and we got some cool guests coming up over the next couple weeks. And reminder, your email questions are amazing. I just learned something I didn't know. Keep them coming, please. Ross at rosstucker.com. Good luck, everybody. Hope you guys win some money.
Thanks for tuning in to Even Money. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.